Hello, students. I am here today. This is Ms. Cohn. I'm here today to talk to you about revising and editing your literary analysis essays. I recommend you find someone to do this for you and go through your paper. I think it's always good to put extra eyes on a paper other than your own because I think it's hard and difficult to be objective about our own writing. However, I would also use this checklist and go through your own paper. It's a nice check for what Ms. Cohn is looking for. As you can see, I've got several items I'd like you to look for, 15 different items. Would I read your paper 15 different times and look for all of these things? Absolutely not. I would keep these things in mind as you are reading someone's paper, and I would comment on and make comments in the side margins and use the suggesting tool. So use comments and suggesting tool. The suggesting tool is this, and that's your pink pen. I think it's your pink pen for you. It's a green pen for me. But anyways, as you can see, I have different items to check for broken down for the things I'm grading. And let's just take a minute and go through this. For ideas and content, definitely want a strong thesis. Okay. Also, from the PowerPoint, the literary analysis talk, that certainly there are certain components that belong in the thesis, and if they're missing something or don't make a strong claim, you need to make a note in the side margin. You're going to look at the topic sentences. Does it connect to the thesis? If it doesn't, or they don't have a topic sentence, you want to make a note in the side margin. If you're looking for places to add detail, okay, you might make suggestions for more explanation in the analysis part, or maybe they're missing evidence, okay. You're going to look for places where you might be confused as a reader. If there's places you have questions, write questions in the side margins. Look at each body paragraph. Does it have a topic sentence? Scene summary, evidence, and analysis. All right, make sure the analysis is the largest. Also, if there are accuracy issues, you want to make comment in the side margin. You have to be accurate to the text. You're going to look for organization. All those things are things I'm going to be looking for in terms of ideas and content. Okay, so if you're looking at your own paper, okay, look for all of these things. Yeah. If you're looking at someone else's paper, certainly make comments in the side margins about all of those things. For organization, okay, you're looking for a lead-in that brings the reader into the idea of your paper without being surface level. You're going to look at the overall structure of the paper. Is it logical? Does it make sense for what the writer is writing about? Does the writer transition well from paragraph to paragraph? Is there a strong conclusion that wraps things up but leaves the reader with something to think about? Does the writer give the final so what? Again, all of those things are things I'm going to be grading for in terms of organization. Okay, so if you're looking at your own paper, you want to make sure you account for those things in your paper. If you're looking at someone else's paper and you don't see these things happening, you need to make suggestions, comments in the side margin. Okay, as far as conventions go, this is where I would use my green or a pink suggesting pen, okay? And as far as convention goes, you're going to check for grammar, punctuation, spelling, capitalization, and paragraphing errors, okay? And again, over here, suggesting, okay? And that way you can cross things off, literally, like so. If I highlight this and hit backspace, if I don't think that word belongs there. And then if you're looking at someone else's paper, you can accept or they can accept or reject the suggestion. Okay, we're not literally fixing someone's paper per our suggestions. We are just making comments. It's up to the writer, okay, to decide if they're going to accept or reject your suggestion. Okay, you're going to check all the citations in the body paragraphs. First of all, if they don't have citations, okay, you don't, as a writer, you need to make sure you add them. Okay, and again, author's last name and page number inside parentheses after the quote, period after, not before and after, period after the citation. All right. You're going to check the paper for inappropriate use of first and second person. Okay. This is a third person paper unless there is an I or a you in a direct quotation from the play. Okay. Check the paper for verb tense. Okay. Where you should use present tense verbs when writing about action in literature. All right. Also, check to make sure the writer underlined or italicized a raisin in the sun and fences. Again, grading for conventions. Yes, you want to make sure you look at your own paper or someone else's. Yes, and help them out with this. Some other things to look for: eliminating helping verbs and using strong verbs. Avoid dead words like things, stuff, get, really, bad, good, very, awesome. Okay. You can look for poor word choices and make replacements. And look for places where the writer might economize with words. It's always better to be clear and concise. All right. And look for excess baggage in places the writer may be able to cut. While I'm not grading for these things yet, okay, certainly they will help make you look better in terms of that. Okay, so this is a checklist you can use, again, for yourself or to help someone else. Okay, it doesn't even necessarily have to be someone in this class, although it would be a good use of class time. If you're at home, certainly you can use this checklist for yourself, or you can ask a friend to go through it with you. Okay, this is not worth points. Okay, it is just an extra tool to help you. What I'm going to do now is I am going to go through a sample paper, for an old paper from a former student, and I'm going to go through part of it and show you how I would comment and add suggestions and edit this paper. So revise and edit this paper. Okay, give me 1 minute. All right, so keeping this checklist in mind, I'm gonna, and the things I'm looking for, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and go to this literary analysis paper, sample paper, and I am going to kind of go through the paper. All right, first thing I'm gonna do is, it looks like it's double spaced, 12-point font, Times New Roman. It's not 12-point font, but that's not a big deal. It looks like it's got the right parameters for the most part, page number, heading. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this first paragraph and see what suggestions I might make based on that checklist. So it says Walter and Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun and Troy and August Wilson's Fences both show selfishness and lack support for others. However, they are different in why they turn to alcohol and how they deal with finances. Their characteristics play a big role in their everyday life. The way their personalities are affects the other characters and how they react because Troy and Walter do wrong at certain moments and just make things worse. By the way they are acting, plenty of events start to go downhill. For example, whenever Troy told Rose that he got another woman pregnant, and that didn't go very well. Also, when everyone found out that Walter got the money when he wasn't supposed to and used it for himself and didn't think about the others. Okay, so first of all, I don't see much of a lead-in to bring the reader into the idea of what this writer is writing about. I would maybe make a comment to the writer. I would add a lead-in to bring the reader into the idea of your paper. Also, it seems as though your thesis is at the beginning of the paper. I would move it to the end of the first paragraph. I feel like that is solid advice that I could give this writer. Okay. It looks like there's sort of a two-sentence, it looks like there's sort of a two-sentence thesis here. And that's okay, especially with those comparison prompts. But it certainly seems as though the writer just sort of smacks you with the thesis at first. And Yeah, that's not probably good to do. You want to ease your reader into that. Also, this sentence kind of was weird to me. The way their personalities are affects the other characters and how they react because Troy and Walter do wrong at certain moments and just make things worse. Okay, so first of all, I am going to make another comment here. Okay, and for this, I feel like sentence is unclear. Work to clarify. Yeah. Also, the word things. I would eliminate the use of the word things. All right. By the way they are acting, plenty of events start to go downhill. For example, whenever Troy and Rose told Rose that he got another woman pregnant, and that didn't go very well. Also, when everyone found out that Walter got the money and he wasn't supposed to and use it for himself and didn't think about others. Now, I can tell you right now with my suggesting pen, since I found a grammar mistake or punctuation mistake, that the apostrophe is not needed there. Also, I feel like this is more body paragraph material. Those are specific examples. Okay, so I would move these details to a body paragraph. They are too specific for an introduction. In other words, I feel as though your introduction needs some work. Yeah. Okay, I think that those would be some nice comments to make on this person's first paragraph. Let's take a look at least one body paragraph from this writer and see how we might adjust it. All right, so when it gets to body paragraphs, I'm looking for evidence, I'm looking for analysis, I'm looking for connection to the thesis. Let's take a look. In A Raisin in the Sun, Troy Maxon, and in Fences, Walter Younger. First of all, that is an accuracy issue. Walter is the character in A Raisin, and Troy is in the also, the sentence feels awkward. Sentence feels awkward. Also, you have an accuracy issue. Walter is in A Raisin in the Sun, and Troy is in Fences. Okay. They both deal with money differently. Okay, let's look at our thesis again. Our thesis, I'm assuming, is these first two sentences. Okay, it says they're different in how they turn to alcohol and how they deal with finances. Okay, so it connects to the thesis. Not sure this is the appropriate place for it chronologically, but we'll see. They both deal with money differently. They both show how they like to deal and give money out to others. What do you mean by deal? Deal what? I'm a little confused there, so I'm going to ask the writer a question and give their money out to others. Walter Lee is a giving father and does not have a problem with giving Travis money if he is in need. The text says in A Raisin in the Sun, comma, quote, Walter, I would say, you wouldn't say the text says. I would say, for example, Walter says, let's see. Make the suggestion. For example, Walter says, yeah, so fix that. And then I would take this indicator out. I would always write the character's name in the context of the sentence, not the quote, if that makes sense. And then the same with this. I wouldn't just keep quoting this. Yes. All right. I would what I would do is I would I suggest you just use the last line from Walter. When he gives Travis the money as evidence. Summarize the rest of the exchange between Ruth and Walter. Yeah, because it's really awkward if you don't do that. And again, I would erase this period here. On the other hand, Troy Moxon has a big problem with giving money to his son Lyons and doesn't think he will pay him back. In Fences, Troy Moxon is a whole different story. He has a big problem with giving money to Lyons. Lyons is a name, not an apostrophe. Okay, so I would take out the... But Lyons says that he will return the money, and from that I could tell Troy does not trust him for anything to pay him back in the text. So again, I would work on how you use the quote as evidence to focus on what really is the evidence. Use the characters' names in the sentence leading up to the quote, not inside the quote. Okay, so if we look at all this evidence, yes, again, this writer obviously needs to work on that skill. Again, period only goes after citation. Walter and Troy both showed how they dealt with money and what they thought about it. Okay, well, this is a problem. Okay, because if you look, there's some analysis. That's the only analysis. It's a one sentence. The analysis is supposed to be the biggest part of the body paragraph. So I would suggest to this writer, you need more analysis. The analysis is supposed to be the largest part of the paper. I'll explain to the reader how the evidence supports the topic, sentence, and thesis. How do they deal with money and think about money differently? Why should the reader care? Yeah. Okay. So, again, I would tell this writer to work on how they're setting up the quotes. I would tell them to really zoom in on the important evidence. There's too much evidence, too much quoting. I would tell them they need more analysis. I would, their use of apostrophes is atrocious. They're not punctuating the citation, the end of a sentence with a citation correctly. They're having some issues here. They've got an accuracy issue. This writer just wasn't very careful. Yes, I could go on and tell you there are more accuracy issues. There's there's not a lot of analysis. There's too much evidence and so on. This writer just goes on and on and on and gave me 7 pages. Well, I appreciate the effort. There are a lot of mistakes, but you get the idea. I kind of thought about all the things on this editing and revision checklist holistically as I'm reading through the paper and making some comments. Could I have made more comments? Sure. Kind of commented on the things that sort of stood out to me. I'm not going to catch everything as a reviser and editor, but I'm going to try my best to make some comments. This writer, obviously, if they want to do well on this paper, would have a lot of revision to do. So hopefully seeing this process, this revision process, has helped you a little bit. Again, I would, when I'm looking at my own or someone, when I'm looking at someone else's paper, I would definitely make sure I put the suggesting um, feature on. If I'm looking at my own, I would keep the checklist in mind and sort of make the adjustments as I go along. Certainly feel free to put notes in the side margin. And again, when you turn in a paper, make sure you have all of these resolved in the side margin. You don't want to turn in a final paper with a bunch of comments on it. Okay, the whole point of using a revision and editing checklist is to actually go back into your paper and consider suggestions that someone else made. If you're using the checklist for yourself, you can just sort of keep those things in mind as you're reading your paper and keeping the items on the checklist in mind as you're reading your paper, and then sort of make the adjustments as you're going through it, or make notes in the side margin to go back and do it later on. Again, enjoyed going through this process with you. I hope it was helpful. And again, this is not an example of a good paper. I do keep that in mind. All right, have a great day.